Hello guys, welcome to another video tutorial on the Code and Go YouTube channel. Today I'll be showing us how we can set up React 18 Alpha using Snowpack, and at the end of the video we are going to deploy the application using Vercel. It's just a small setup and shows you how you can put all these technologies together to create an application. But today we are not really creating any application, we just want to set it up. So before I go further, please click on the like and the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so that anytime I create a new video you'll be aware, and a big thumbs up for you for doing that. I really appreciate you guys. Now straight into the business of the day. Snowpack is like a bundler similar to Webpack, but it's kind of faster. I'll talk much more a little bit more on that in some minutes, but let me just quickly give us a brief overview of the recent happenings in the world of React. Now, React 18 was recently made available to the public. Most of the codes are still experimental, as React 18 itself is still months away, as we can see in this slide. The React 18 alpha is now available, which is what we are trying to work with here. We're trying to set it up using Snowpack. Then the React 18 beta is months away. We don't know the specific months, but the React team said it's months away. Then the release candidate is also months away, while React 18 itself would be released 2 to 4 weeks after the release candidate. So for the React developers out there, there's still a little bit of waiting that needs to be done. So for now, some of the things that can be experimented with, which is available in React 18 Alpha, is the Suspense component that allows you to coordinate how your loading spinners work. Like instead of setting rendering it in a sort of conditional way, you now have some sort of out of the box components that can help you to render these loaders by wrapping the suspend tag around these components. Also, we have what we call the start transition. The start transitions allow you to make updates as the page transitions. So instead of making use of some JavaScript method like set timeout, you can just make use of the set start transition, which is kind of synchronous. Also, there's the update of creative batching improvements by making use of something like, say, the use deferred value, which helps you to update states with a delay. And also another thing that needs to be noted here is the replacement of the ReactDOM.render. As we know, in React 17 and below, we make use of ReactDOM.render to launch the React application. Now it's been replaced with the ReactDOM.createRoot. If you need more explanations on these things, I will drop a link in this description below from the React team website, so you can read about some of these things. Now let's look at Snowpack. Now, as you can see in the Snowpack documentation, they say Snowpack is a lightning fast front-end build tool designed for modern web dev, and I agree with what they said there. I believe Snowpack is going to gain traction in the future, because when I ran Snowpack, I can see the difference in terms of speed compared to probably Webpack, which is kind of a bit heavier than Snowpack. Snowpack is very light and it's kind of modern and makes things faster and easier. So you can also play around with it by going to the website snowpack.dev, and then you can see and go through the documentation and test it out to form your own opinion on it. But since we are going to be using it to set up our React 18, I'm going to go to the sidebar on the left here and click on React. So once the page loads, we can see that we also have some out of the box command that can help us to generate some sort of templates automatically. So that's npx create snowpack app and the likes. Like just what we have here, you can just copy this command and paste it in your terminal. And also you have to have Snowpack installed. And back to the landing page, we can see this command that says npm install Snowpack. So you need to install Snowpack for this to work. Obviously, you can also use yarn by running yarn add Snowpack. So the next thing we need to do is to generate a sort of boilerplate template. So with this command, we are going to have a template generated for us. So let's quickly run this. This template is going to be similar to something like let's say create React app, but once it's generated, I'm sure we should be able to see this in VS Code. So now that our templates has been fully generated, let's open this in VS Code. So I'm going to first cd into the directory of the project, which is react-snowpack. So let's say cd react-snowpack, and then open the command in VS Code. So as you can see, we have some boilerplate templates here. We have an index.html file, we have a gitignore file, an index.css file, index.js file, and also a package.json, which is awesome. This is a very simple template that makes our app resemble something like something we can work with. So, and another important file we need to take a look at is the snowpack.config.mjs. I think this is going to come in handy when we want to deploy the application on Vercel. So for now, I'm just going to leave it this way and then head straight to package.json. So I just want to set up the script tag to start our application. Okay, we already have a start script and also a build script, which is just some. Let me remove this test script. We don't need that. And then we need to install React next, React Alpha. So the command to do that is npm install React at Alpha, ReactDOM at Alpha. So let's quickly run that command. So if you are using Yarn, you can make use of yarn add React at Alpha, React-DOM at Alpha. So depending on what package you are using. Now we can see that React and ReactDOM has successfully been installed. That is the alpha version. So let's check our package.json. And our package.json, we can see what we have here. This signifies that we have the alpha version of React. So the next thing we need to do is to set up the file. So what I want us to do next is to make this application look more like a React application. So what I'm going to do is to create a public directly and an src directly. So to do that, what I'm going to do is to create a new folder called public and another one called src. Let's rename this public. Now inside the public directory, we're going to have two files, the index.html file and the index.css file. So I'm going to move that in there. So in the src folder, we're going to create two new files, an app.jsx file and an index.jss file. So quickly we can have that index.jsx and then app.jsx. So it's important to have the GSS extension when you use Snowpack. This allows Snowpack to recognize that we are dealing with React, so it helps us to compile it better. So you might look at the documentation to understand furthermore why that is necessary. So we start off by removing this h1 tag and then replacing it with a div with an ID of root. Then the src attribute here, we need to configure it. So what I'm going to do is to put a /dist and /index.js. The reason for this is going to be clear when I set up the snowpack.config.mjs file, because we need to configure that file. But for the src here is some sort of deployment process when we want to deploy to Vercel. So we need to create a, we want it to go to the dist directory. So basically for now, let's just leave it at this. So up next is the app.jsx. So inside the app.jsx, we're gonna paste this template. So what is going on here is that we are importing React from React and also returning a bunch of this JSX here, which has a div tag that contains an header tag, an image tag that contains the logo of React, and also a p tag which is React 18 alpha setup deployed on Vercel with Snowpack, which is exactly what we are doing here. So that is for this part. And then finally in the index.jsx file, we need to set up some configurations here. So let's start by importing React. So Then we import React DOM. Then finally we import the app component. So next up is to create some bunch of variables. Let's start by creating a root element variable. So we make reference to the ID in our index.html. Next up is to make reference to that ID by creating another variable called root. So we call React DOM here. Then we make use of the new API that starts up React, which is create root instead of React render. So create root and then pass in the root element before we finally render the app. So by passing root.render, and what we are rendering is the app component which we created earlier. So next up is to set up the snowpack.config.mjs file. This file is sort of like a configuration part of the Snowpack bundler. So what we have here is different things we can do. We have plugins and optimization and then some other options which are in the documentation. You can take a look at that. But for this particular tutorial, we are going to be making use of the mouth objects here. And what we want to do is to specify some directory when we build the application. That is when we try to deploy the application. So the first one we want to have here is the public. So what we have here is we want it to be at the root of the application. Then we have the src. We want that to be in the, we have this directory here. That's what we need to do. So let me save everything we've done so far, and then I think we're good to go to run the application. We've set up the index.html in the public directory. Same applies to the app.jsx and index.jsx in the src. So we can just run the application by running npm start. Remember, we configured this in the package.json earlier. So let's see, it should display some things in the browser. And there you go, our application is live on the browser. As we can see in the app.jsx, we have exactly what's on this particular code on the page, the React logo as well as this p tag. So there you go, guys, we have our code live on the browser. That means everything is working smoothly. This particular component, that is the app.js component, is now live on the browser. So if I check the console, let's see if we have any form of errors there. There are no errors, so everything is running fine. So this is how you set up React 18 Alpha using Snowpack. Now that that's done, the next we need to do is to try to deploy this application by using Vercel. Now let's get over to the Vercel documentation. So as you can see here, Vercel is a platform for front-end developers to deploy their application easily. And then you can create an account by setting up by using GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. Any of these three would help you to sign up to Vercel easily. And Vercel supports a lot of front-end libraries and frameworks like Next, Svelte, Node.js, Gatsby, Angular, React, and the likes. So after setting up your Vercel account, you need to install Vercel in your terminal. So for us to deploy this application to Vercel, we need to first run a command called npm run build. So let me stop the server. So I'm gonna run npm run build. If you can remember, we already implemented the script in the package.json. Let me show you once again. So we have a build script here. So it needs to build up the application, and then while building up the application, our configuration in this file called snowpack.config.mjs is going to create a disk directory for the folder that needs to be deployed to the server. So now we can set up Vercel. So how do we do that? First things first, I'm going to type in Vercel, but in case you haven't installed Vercel, you need to run this command npm install -g Vercel. I already did that, so I won't be going through that process once again. So once that is installed, you can now run Vercel, and then you get asked some bunch of questions. So set up and deploy, yes, yes, no, I don't want to link to a different existing project. So my project's name, let me just call this React Snow. I want this to be in the build directory which we just generated from our npm run build command. So let me press enter, and I believe this should lead to a successful deployment, but let's see how it goes. No, I don't want to override any settings. So as you can see, it generated a link for me here to inspect the project. I'll copy that once this is completed, so we have more information if the deployment is successful or not. So let me copy this inspect URL and then paste it in the browser. So as you can see, I think our app is successfully deployed. As you can see here, you have in build logs, which shows some of what happened while the app is being deployed. It downloaded some things, it analyzes some things, and then some things got uploaded and then finally got deployed. So this is the link to our application. So I believe I click on this. So that's it. This is our application all set and ready to go, and the URL says reactsnow.vercel.app, which is awesome. So we've successfully created a React 18 alpha boilerplate template, and then we hosted it on Vercel and we set it up using Snowpack. So it's really awesome working together with all these technologies and joining them together. So if you like the video, please give it a like and subscribe. I would really appreciate that. So I'll keep creating awesome content for you. If you have any questions about how this whole process was set up, drop it in the comment section below and I'll answer every single question you have. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one.